Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here going over more comma rules for the SAT. So we are on comma rule number 4. And this one most of you feel very comfortable with. Don't use commas to separate complete thoughts. Your teachers have probably been over this multitudes of times in your high school classes. It's called a comma splice. So it would be wrong for you to have an independent clause, comma, independent clause. Because remember, independent clauses are complete thoughts or sentences. You should just use a period to separate two independent clauses, or a semicolon, or a colon. So let's look at some examples. Madeline failed her test, comma, it was extremely difficult. These two are complete thoughts, so you would not want to use a comma here. You could replace them both with periods. Madeline failed her test, period, it was extremely difficult. You could change it to make it an independent clause with a dependent clause by adding that dependent word marker but. So, but it was extremely difficult, or which was extremely difficult. You could also even use a semicolon. Remember, we said semicolons can be used to separate two independent clauses. So that is that example for semicolons. Commas are no's, but semicolons and yes, even colons would work here. All right, so that's rule number 4. Hi, so let's look at this SAT example. In this SAT example, I looked at the answers and I noticed that I was being tested on punctuation. And so I quickly wanted to look and see what the sentence had going on for me. So it says, take Bartlett pears, for instance. Unless they are treated with exactly the right amount of 1 MCP at exactly the right time, they will remain hard and green until they rot, and consumers who experience this will be unlikely to purchase them again. Okay, so number 1, I looked to see if I needed this comma right here, pears, and for instance. Because this phrase is surrounded by commas, I'm checking to see if it's a dependent, a non-restrictive clause or a positive. Well, it's not a positive, and it's not a non-restrictive clause, so it didn't need to be surrounded by commas. So I got rid of that one right off the bat. So I guess and then I got rid of D right off the bat because take Bartlett pears is not an independent clause, so I couldn't use a period. So the question was, do I use the comma or do I use the colon? Well, take Bartlett pears, for instance, is an independent clause, and so is what follows it. So the comma would create that comma splice we just talked about. And remember, a colon, I said, it could be used after an independent clause. So my answer in this case would be B. Otherwise, we'd have a comma splice. Hopefully that was a helpful video, guys. Have a great day.